Clare, Swinney, I'm very glad to talk to you, although the subject is concerning. And the subject's concerning because I get the sense from the notes that you sent me that there is something quite covert going on behind the scenes in our councils about something called bird flu. Now, we had a supposed pandemic back in 2005, and it finally blew over, and it was seen as a lot of hot air and not much substance to it. I'll put it that way. Now, you've sent me, I want to start at the latest. Just in the last week, you've sent me something saying the World Health Organization website report that is dated the 18th of May, 2026, has stated that the global public health risk posed by HPAI, they call it, that's high pathogenicity avian influenza, they state that the risk of that is low. And yet, from what you have been researching, and you're a scientist, you have a science degree, and you are a researcher, you're finding there's quite an, I'll put it as this, an alarming level of preparation at our council level across New Zealand. So tell us what you are finding.
Okay, yes, it's very alarming, Liz. I sent you some meeting minutes yesterday, and you'll see in the meeting minutes, it mentions there that there are plans to, it looks like they're going to be culling chickens in large numbers. In other minutes, there's mention of dairy cattle being targeted and so on. In those minutes that I sent you also, at the bottom, you'll see on page 1, it mentions that they want the work to be completed, that they're spending $3 million on, that they've got. Councils were given $3 million from the Ministry for Primary Industries, and that was to spend on this planning work.
All the councils were given $3 million and divided up among all the councils to look at the preparation work for a supposed bird flu pandemic. That's still a lot of money. And in these notes that I have from you, it says the councils were advised to spend this before the end of June 2026. I thought that was odd as well, as if there is something planned,
Yeah, it's quite alarming, isn't it? And the work that they're doing, it's suggestive that there are definite plans to cull chickens, but there's no evidence that the bird flu actually exists. So this is going to be a crime against the people of New Zealand that is in the works at the moment, and it should be transparent, this work, but I'm having to rely on a whistleblower who's sending information to know about this. And
that's the thing, Clare. Most New Zealanders would have no idea these meetings are going on. The meeting minutes you referred to were the 2nd of March 2026 from the Northland Regional Council, and that was in Whangarei. And that was where they discussed this $3 million to be spent on iwi liaison, training, signage, regional management plans. And I thought this was alarming, just as you said, getting contractors ready for chicken carcass picking up and disposal. So that tells us what, Clare? That tells us they are planning for a major cull of a major food source in New Zealand of chickens, are they not?
Yes. And it's not the first time. Apparently 200,000 birds were culled in December 2024 in North Otago. And there's an article I found recently, and it says they've just managed to get the numbers of that mainland poultry farm back up. And in Australia, there were 1.8 million birds culled in 2024. And in America, they've been killing many millions of birds, 148 million I read about, between February 2022 and 2025, and that is still continuing. What makes it all the more alarming is that the governments are using the PCR to test for this purported bird flu. I mean, it's shocking, isn't it? We know that the PCR was not designed to test for diseases. And, the inventor, Dr. Carrie Mullis, spoke about this because it was being used to test for HIV/AIDS, and he said it was, it was not designed for that.
Dr. Kary Mullis was awarded the Nobel Prize for his invention of the polymerase chain reaction, the PCR. The PCR is a method of analysis and wasn't designed to test for a virus. Mullis explains why.
And with PCR, if you do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody. It starts making you believe in the sort of Buddhist notion that everything is contained in everything else, right? I mean, because if you can amplify one single molecule up to something that you can really measure, which PCR can do, then there's just very few molecules that you don't have at least one single one of them in your body, okay? So that could be thought of as a misuse of it, just to claim that it's meaningful.
The PCR test can potentially find anything you are looking for, depending on how high you turn it up. And this is exactly what has been done. The official protocol given for the PCR testing of COVID-19 created a floodgate of false positives to skew the results. They call it asymptomatic because it's a lie. These people don't have symptoms because they don't have COVID-19. They do it today because they've done it in the past and always gotten away with it. 30 years ago, Anthony Fauci, head of the NIH, made a name for himself by pushing for higher doses of the deadly drug AZT, an old cancer chemotherapy too dangerous for approval, onto AIDS patients. Kary Mullis was hired to measure HIV in people's blood samples with his PCR. He was working under the premise that HIV was the probable cause of AIDS. But when he went looking for the proof, he found there was none. They just made it up.
What is that paper? Who do I go to for that? And I looked around, I asked a couple of virologists at that company, and they said, no, you don't have to reference. I said, I have to reference that because I don't know where that came from. How do I know that? And it turned out that nobody knew it. And I was getting really freaked about that. That's when I first started saying, they don't know. Nobody really knows. This whole thing is a big sham.
Mullis pointed out how the CDC was losing money and how the HIV/AIDS connection brought their profits back in the black, and how the men at the highest levels were all in on it. Kary Mullis knew these men were dangerous.
They don't want people like me walking up and asking them those kind of questions, and they're willing to go to great lengths to prevent that. They're out on a limb. I wouldn't want to be there with them.
But he was still outspoken. When ABC's Nightline approached him about doing a documentary on his work, Mullis convinced them to cover the HIV debate after nearly a decade of ignoring it. In a 1994 interview with Celia Farber for Spin magazine, Kary Mullis expressed how he really wanted to expose Anthony Fauci and Robert Gallo. He said that he'd be willing to chase the little bastard from his car to his office, a Nobel Prize winner trying to ask a simple question from those who spent $22 billion and killed 100,000 people. It has to be on TV. I'm not unwilling to do something like that. Unfortunately, not many people were listening back then. And on August 7th, 2019, just about 3 months before the first utterance of COVID-19, Kary Mullis, age 74, a Nobel Prize winner, inventor of the PCR test, a man who was once willing and eager to expose Anthony Fauci, quietly died of pneumonia. The timing of it all is mysterious to many of us.
It's worth mentioning that there's a paper by David Crow and Torsten Engelbrecht, and that was dated December 2005, and it was published in a journal called Medical Hypotheses, and that article makes it quite apparent that the whole thing is a hoax. And that's actually a good article to share with people who are involved in this planning.
I'll put that article underneath.
And with regard to the so-called avian flu, perhaps the most damning paper exposing the anti-science was published by David Crow and Torsten Engelbrecht in Medical Hypothesis in December 2005. They documented the 4 questions they put to the Frederick Loeffler Institute and the information they received in response. Question 1. Does H5N1 exist? The FLI claimed that the H5N1 Asia virus can be produced completely in vitro by using reverse genetics. However, Crowe and Engelbrecht pointed out that the supplied paper did not detail how the claimed original, quote, stock virus was determined. Robert Webster, one of the paper's authors, responded that stock viruses are classified as select agents, and we are not at liberty to release this information. In other words, he knew he had been caught without evidence of a virus in their stock. Otherwise, why not divulge this crucial piece of information? Anyway, we know from the dozens of similar papers we have analysed that they simply have mixed tissue samples. At no stage do they demonstrate an infectious particle, let alone show a methodology that determines specific genetic sequences that come from the claimed particle. Question 2. Is it pathogenic to animals? The FLI provided 3 papers which it claimed demonstrated pathogenicity. None of the methodologies in any of these papers were sufficient to show the existence of a replication-competent intracellular parasite. They simply asserted that their manufactured brews contain such particles. And as is always the case, no virus particles could be found in any of the animals. But even allowing for this, all were performed in an unscientific manner, as we can see. The first study involved delivering a highly concentrated embryonated chicken egg culture into 4-week-old ducks, including directly injecting the material into their lungs. Some of the ducks subsequently died, including a few of the ducks cohabitating the cages. They claimed the imagined virus was responsible, but it was not performed in a blinded fashion and there were no control experiments. In other words, it was a senseless activity, exposing them to mixed biological samples which didn't follow the scientific method. The second study involved Madden Derby canine kidney tissue cultures that were injected up the noses of mice, knocked out first with a general anaesthetic. As we have come to expect, they were not normal mice, but highly inbred BALBC mice. While this procedure killed a few mice, once again there was not a control experiment in sight, and thus no demonstration of an independent variable. The third study used the claimed reverse genetic reassortant viruses, the problem with which Crowe and Engelbrecht had pointed out being that the paper's co-author was unwilling to disclose how he had established his original stock contained a virus. He just expected us to believe that it did, as well as the claim that the selected genetic sequences were viral. In any case, the derived brew was injected intravenously into 6-week-old chicks to see if it would make them sick. This is obviously not a natural exposure route, and it was further disqualified from the scientific method by once again not including any control experiments. Question 3. Is it transmissible and pathogenic to humans? And does it have pandemic potential? For this, I can simply quote Crowe and Engelbrecht, who stated, "The emerging infectious diseases paper is an anecdotal report of a 6-year-old boy from Thailand with severe multi-organ disease. No evidence was given for transmissibility to humans. The scientists found evidence of aspergillosis, and the boy was treated with toxic agents, broad-spectrum antimicrobial and antivirals, before he died." Subfarao et al., referenced by the EID paper, describes a previously healthy 3-year-old Hong Kong boy who developed flu-like symptoms in May 9, 1997 and was treated with broad-spectrum antibiotics and salicylic acid, though this is commonly contraindicated. He developed Ray's syndrome and died 11 days later. In other words, the most likely explanation is that he was killed by a reaction to aspirin. Question 4. Have other causes for observed disease been studied? As stated by Crowe and Engelbrecht, neither the Subfarao et al. Study nor the FLI references consider reasonable competing theories for disease causation, e.g. environmental and pharmaceutical factors. The conclusion: our analysis shows the papers do not satisfy our 4 basic questions. It should be more than evident that if these claimed pivotal avian flu studies do not follow the scientific method and are based on methodologies that are insufficient to demonstrate the existence of viruses, then the claim of a viral avian flu should be rejected outright. There does not need to be debates about how to manage an entity that does not exist.
I don't believe they ever isolated the actual COVID virus. We've never had that isolated. So if you're going to talk about isolating a virus, you have to be able to show us that virus that you've managed to isolate. This is a much, much bigger discussion beyond the bird flu, and perhaps it's for another day. But we have to be aware, do we not, Clare, that this speed of science has been shown since COVID in the last 5 years to be extremely faulty, in the last 6 years, really. Many of the things that they claimed were absolutely watertight have shown to be very, very squalid. One really shouldn't call it science at all. Let's look at what alerted you to everything that's been going on in New Zealand behind the scenes, and we're very lucky to have you on the case. In February, did you not hear some advertisements on the radio, on ZB, warning about bird flu? Was that what first brought your attention to this, Clare?
Yes, that's right, Liz. I heard some ads on News Talk ZB, and it was a repeat message of be ready, and they were advising people to go and look at the HPAI website. And
that's the Ministry for Primary Industry, so they're well and truly
Yes.
enmeshed in this, yes?
Yes, and I had a look at the HPAI website, and it was claiming that avian influenza was highly contagious. And so it looked as if they were definitely preparing for a hoax pandemic. And so I wrote an article, What's the latest bird flu scare really about? And I posted that on my website. That was on the 16th of February. And I referred to some of the chickens that have been culled needlessly. And there were ostriches as well that were slaughtered in Canada,
Yes.
300, which was absolutely horrendous. And the article mentioned, as we were talking about the PCR being used to test for it. And the next day I was contacted by a whistleblower who I call Barbara. And Barbara told me that she'd been involved with bird flu planning meetings it was getting on to just over a year. And she said that the councils, the local councils and the district councils, Ministry for Primary Industries were involved, Fish and Game, and also I could see the addresses on something that Barbara showed me for the Auckland Hospital Board and also the Northland Hospital Board. 11 organisations were mentioned on this email.
Gosh.
So Barbara mentioned that the meetings were very COVID-like, and this disturbed her because she knew where it was heading, and she believed that it was fear-based propaganda that was used. People were deliberately being frightened in these meetings because it disables people's ability to think rationally. And she mentioned a meeting in particular where two people came from Otago University to talk, a Gemma Georgan and a Dr. Stephanie Waller. Georgan is a senior lecturer at Otago University, and she was awarded the Prime Minister's Science Communicator Prize in 2025. That's the same prize that Michael Baker was awarded in 2022. And so anyway, Barbara said that when they spoke, they created a very heavy atmosphere and gave the impression that what's forecast for the future is going to be absolutely terrible. And I could see in Barbara's face that she had been absolutely, had the pants scared off her. by what happened in this meeting. And so anyway, I looked into...
Do you know, Claire, do you know what the symptoms are that they're saying? Is it it'll make you all drop on the streets, as we were told, to expect with COVID by Jacinda Ardern? Those early days, I remember walking out thinking, I wonder when I'll see people starting to drop. This is a really scary pandemic. And yeah, do we know if that it was that you said it was COVID-like, or that Barbara said it was COVID-like, a COVID-like atmosphere? So are they painting just terrible projections of, who did we have? Sean Hendy saying there'd be hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders dead in COVID. Is it this sort of hyperbole that Barbara's talking about?
She wasn't specific, but you can hear, like, for example, in YouTube videos, and you can read notes on the talks that they're giving, the claims that they're making. And I saw in one video, someone was claiming that there was going to be many, many birds that were going to be killed by this virus. But there's no evidence that can happen. Also, I got some Auckland bird flu planning notes, which are on 6 A3 pages. I'll give you an idea. I'll try and hold it up so people can get an idea of how huge this is. Can you get an idea from...
Wow.
Yeah, there's 6 pages.
6 pages of that size and that small in the print.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
And these are bird flu planning notes.
Bird flu planning notes, 6.
Goodness me.
On 6 pages. And so these I found particularly disturbing, and I'll read some of the lines of the Auckland plan, shall I, Liz?
Please do.
Okay.
And just while you're looking them up, thank you to Barbara, to any whistleblower in New Zealand. There should be hundreds of thousands of us now, but any whistleblower in New Zealand, please come forward if you have material. We are not going to win this war against the globalists if we don't all unite behind our whistleblowers like Barry Young and praise him and protect him and make sure that he is able to get his information out. And we will do the same for you if you come forward. I can anonymize your information, as Claire is doing. And Claire, your contact details just before you read out, because your website is clareswinney.wordpress.com. But if someone wants to contact you privately, what is your address?
It's clareswinney@hotmail.com.
And mine is liz.gunn@freenz.org. So if any whistleblower is out there saying, I'm sitting on information that's really worrying me, they're going to do another COVID on our people, try to lock us down and bully us and take away our food supply, please come forward. So Claire, can you read some of those notes out?
Yes, certainly. Now, this is the 6 pages that I referred to. From Auckland. It's the Auckland Council. Every page has got at the top of it, "in confidence," in yellow. And
as if we, the people, are not to know.
Yes, that's right. It's shocking, isn't it, really?
What our representatives are doing on our behalf, and we are not to be told. That's not
absolutely
healthy.
No. So here's some of the more disturbing statements. Assumed bird flu will impact the country indefinitely.
Oof.
Yep. Although transmission to humans is very rare, the mortality rate is 50% for those who contract the disease. And I found on the World Health Organization website yesterday, they're claiming it's 66.3%, the fatality rate. Oh. So it's on a sliding scale, isn't it?
Do they give any evidence for that, or is it just numbers pulled out of the air?
No, there's no scientific evidence provided. People are just taken as gullible fools, and it's like a marketing script depicting a scenario of horror to create a demand for vaccines, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah. Okay, the next one, HPAI, which is bird flu, poses economic and food supply risks. It particularly affects domestic poultry, with substantial impacts on poultry industries overseas. Now, this is deceptively worded because the reason it's had a significant impact on the poultry industry overseas is because they've been going in there using a PCR test and claiming that the birds are infected and then culling the whole lot of them. And but it doesn't mention that here.
That's a really, let's refine that distinction. You might have one or two birds where the PCR test, which we already know is faulty and unreliable, might show up that those two birds, say, have something, but then they'll cull the whole lot in that shed. And then they say bird flu has affected the whole lot in that shed, which is a total fabrication. It's a gaslighting, actually.
Yes. And I've heard that senior lecturer, Gemma Jorgen, talking about that in an information video about the many birds that have been killed. But it's humans that are killing the birds. It's not a virus. And here's another statement. In conjunction with the Ministry for Primary Industries and Ministry of Health, prepare comms or emergency management alerts for use post-arrival of HPAI, e.g. regarding food supply impacts, water safety, disposal and safe handling.
So that's telling us what? Are they going to test the water and say, oh, bird flu's got into the water, do you think?
Yeah. They're going to say that maybe they're going to say that the water's not safe to drink because I've heard it mentioned that if any of the bird flu gets into water, then trillions of viruses can end up contaminating the water. And
is that part of the fear porn, as I call it, the
yes,
fear mongering, or is it based on any science, as far as you know?
No, it's not based on science. There's no science here.
And comms is really important. Comms is communications. That equals legacy media. That tells us legacy media is going to be absolutely complicit again with the government being told what to say and putting it out to the country to scare people, make you all line up for jabs, scare everybody that your grandmother's going to die again. But the one thing legacy media showed us in COVID was when you are injured by the jabs, they will not say a word about that because big pharmaceutical is very powerful and their overlords, the government, kowtow to big pharmaceutical. So you cannot believe legacy media if they're going to be implicit in this. So what else is in that huge document? What other points are discussed, Claire? This is really interesting and alarming.
Yes, it's very alarming, isn't it? Ministry for Primary Industries is the lead agency for the national response, but may focus on commercial poultry. The Ministry of Health will lead in aspects related to human health risks. Next one, in concert with the Ministry for Primary Industry, collate stats on approved bird flu veterinary and medical infrastructure facilities for treatment of sick individuals.
What are you reading into that?
Well, they're selling the idea that we're going to get sick from this. People who read this are going to believe that it's got the ability to make them sick when there's no evidence to show that. It instills in the mind of the reader that I suppose they hope that they need the people who've written this want people to rush to the vaccination centres, don't they? Yeah.
What I heard was one 4-letter word, fear. They're trying to instill fear, and fear makes large populations easy to manipulate, as we found in COVID. I mean, what's striking me as you're reading is the similarity to the COVID rollout. It's just all being put in place now behind the scenes in confidence with our regional governments, our local governments complicit in it as well and not speaking to the people. And you were voted in to represent us as part of us. Not them. You're not part of them. You're part of us. So really, a lot of these local councillors should hang their heads in shame for not telling the people what's really going on. What else? What else are you seeing in these papers? Because these would have, I presume, gone round all the councils, Claire.
I'm not sure if the Auckland one has gone around all of them, but I see similar statements appearing in the minutes of the Northland, the minutes that I sent you yesterday. You'll see similar statements, but it's nowhere near as detailed as this Auckland one.
Let's go through some more.
For the Auckland region, encourage the registration of backyard flocks.
Oh,
So
we can't feed our families. So we're dependent on the system. And they can come and bully us, as they did with the ostrich farmer in Canada, bullied and traumatized that family for years, actually, when I spoke to her, to kill those ostriches. But they're going to do that across the country or across Auckland to not let us have independence of food supply with backyard chickens.
Yes, and if they were really worried about us having the flu, they'd want us to eat eggs because eggs are a source of vitamin D. Okay, the next one, assume there may be economic impact to the Auckland region from the closure of poultry and other bird-related commercial activities, tourism, etc. So, assume there may be an impact on farming operations, e.g. dairy cattle, milk, handling, etc. Yep, so they're going after the dairy industry, it seems.
What? The last time I looked, Claire, a cow is not a bird. How is that? How is that happening? I'm sorry, am I out of date with the science?
Well, they're going to claim that the bird flu is able to jump to any animal that provides us with a good source of food, including sheep.
And then guess what, Claire? It'll go into sheep, as you say, pigs.
Yes.
And then it will be very easy to claim that it's got into the human population as well. Yeah, you can see the setup. The word tourism in the previous point is hung in my head. What I got from that was tourism. Okay, so tourist numbers here may drop because we have a bird flu pandemic, or could it mean that this is going to be rolled out around the world by coincidence, that it could suddenly show up in every country by coincidence, just like COVID seemed to suddenly be nowhere and then suddenly be everywhere around the world, coordinated by the World Health Organization. People have to start pattern recognition here. People have to say somebody behind the curtain is coordinating all of this, fabricating all of this, whipping all of this up. This is not natural, what's going on here. This is man-made. It feels like really, really manicured health disaster, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, and if you have a look at the vaccines that have been manufactured overseas and how much money has been injected into messenger RNA vaccines using the same technology as that used in the COVID jabs, but for bird flu. And the BBC website mentions a trial that's started not long ago with 4,000 subjects, and they're using messenger RNA for the bird flu. I don't know how they managed to get 4,000 people to go along with that. They must have paid them a lot of money, Liz, after what happened during COVID.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed online ads, particularly for young people, come and try this new drug, come and try this new vaccine in New Zealand here. So we really are, I've always felt we're a bit of a test nation for new pharmaceutical products. I mean, it goes back to us having the self-respect to say two letters, N and O. No, I'm not doing it. I don't trust you and I will not go along with your plans. No, I won't. Because they really show us how little regard they have for us as Kiwis.
Yeah, yes, that's right.
So that's really worrying. I think they also have tested on birds, haven't they? Have they tried injecting birds?
They have had a trial here injecting native birds, I think. But they have to give 2 injections, so they have to use captive birds. They can't use They can't use wild birds.
God.
And they claim that's going well, whatever that means. It could be just an exercise to build trust in vaccines that it's the Department of Conservation that's involved with that. Anyway, I'll go back to another statement in this Auckland plan because we've got some really hairy ones to get to. Staff to be on standby to provide support for animal welfare facilities and disposal, as outlined in the Animal and Human Welfare Plan. So it sounds as if they're planning on culling the animals in the welfare, the SPCA facilities.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. That could go to domestic animals and pets that people so need.
Yes, yeah.
That
yeah,
would
they
be
do claim
highly
that.
demoralising. They claim that what?
They are claiming that the bird flu is jumping to cats and dogs. So we could see where it's going. Yeah, it was mentioned during an Otago University webinar in October 2024 that cats and dogs have been infected with H5N1. Can you remember the webinar that I sent you? It was mentioned. Yeah, it was mentioned in that one. So they're building up the groundwork to justify killing them. Anyway, here's another one.
I want to dwell on that for a moment. Think about that, people. Not only in COVID, we were locked down and isolated, but we did have our animals. We had our pets, which means so much to so many people. So not only are they going to try to roll out a similar COVID scenario, claiming it's bird flu, but they're going to potentially here, we don't know exactly because it's all COVID, but potentially they could come to the door and say, have you got pets here? We have them registered. They have to be put down. What they would do to people in terms of lowering their morale, and people with lowered morale are not going to be willing to fight back. They're going to feel depressed and broken. And that seems to be where these governments want their own people to go. So, I mean, these are really important points you're rolling out. What else have you got there, Claire?
Okay, the next one, it mentions, in concert with MPI, the Ministry for Primary Industries, collect/channel information flow on food supply chain and food security impacted by HPAI, e.g. poultry. And the next one, be prepared to restrict access to public, potentially contaminated public facilities and recreation sites for reasons of public safety.
There's the same thing they did in COVID, the locking up taping off the playgrounds, and children couldn't play outside, and swimming pools, and all of the things that keep people fit and happy and healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
what else?
Yeah.
It's the same playbook. It's the same playbook. What else have you got there?
Okay. Another sinister one. Key states arrival in New Zealand and mutation to people. Okay, the next one. Be prepared by having PPE for responders stored and ready to distribute widely across the region. And this includes gloves, overalls, boots, P2, N95, N99, masks and eye protection. And there's a side note, and it mentions respirators as well in certain conditions. So they're creating, it's all fear creation, isn't it?
We saw that in China. We saw that a lot in China, people in full plastic outfits with respirators on, and it makes humans very impersonal to one another. Somebody who's only their eyes are showing, it dehumanizes.
Yes, that's a good point.
Really concerning. What's another point?
Okay, source water sterilisation and decontamination chemicals or treatments for the public supply. Now, this is I find this particularly disturbing. Auckland water's already chlorinated, so what are they wanting to put in here to treat the water because of bird flu. I did ask someone involved who was it. He was involved with this planning, what chemicals they were planning to add, and he claimed that statement was a copy and paste error. But do you believe that?
No, I
copy
don't.
and paste error?
No.
No, it's hard to believe.
It's very glib. That's a very, very glib reply. Did you follow up with, well, are you planning to do anything to the waters? But you can see even if they don't, they have no intention of telling us. All of this is being kept quiet from us. But even if they don't tell us anything, you could see how easily they could go around putting actual pollutants in our water supplies and then creating another drama. What we are dealing with are psychopathic levels of lying. Psychopathic levels of lying from the people we should be able to trust. And this is sort of a pre-planned. I often wonder, Claire, do you think a lot of the people like that professor from Otago University, do you think she actually believes it? Or do you think they get so brainwashed that they start to believe their own BS, to use the vernacular?
I asked Dr. Samantha Bailey what she thinks about that, because she's been dealing with this field for a while now. She was involved in writing Virus Mania.
Yes, very good book.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's made many, many videos, which I recommend people watch. She believes that they promote people who believe, and she gave me an example of someone. And when you watch Gemma Jorgen, she does look as if she believes it, doesn't she?
She
When
does.
She's talking about the bird flu.
She has a sort of robotic. There was a meeting that you sent me in which she was speaking, and I think it was Stephanie Waller. Yes, yeah. And they were so dour. It was such a downer of a meeting. It was full of fear. I think at one stage, it was in that meeting or something else I read, Professor Georgan said one of the biggest viral threats facing New Zealand is avian influenza. And then she went on to say it would be catastrophic to native bird populations. And one of the biggest pandemic threats is if it adapts to become a human pandemic. These are all, I put all of those in capitals. These are all giant. We've had it before from Michael Baker all the way through COVID. Giant fear-mongering, big statements backed up by absolutely no science. It's really worrying. Yeah,
it is really worrying.
Yeah.
And when you think that she's got a job as a senior lecturer at Otago University, brainwashing students with this nonsense. Yeah, apparently there's no scientific forecasting method that's able to evaluate the possibility that a virus can cause a pandemic. So all these claims of it's a case of when, not if, which you'll hear Waller and Georgan say about bird flu, it's all just, it's propaganda. They're propagandists for the New World Order elite, the world COFAs.
It's, if people are not aware of that, what is the best way to bring in tyranny? It is to get a population confused, divided, and fearful. And this is what this sort of weaponizing of health stories and for our good, and we must obey, and we must care about our fellow humans. That is all nonsense when you go through what you and I have gone through with the research we've done since the COVID jab rollout. I've interviewed so many people who've said, Liz, I believed in jabs, but once I was injured, there was absolutely no one who was in a position of so-called authority who would listen to me, who was the least bit interested in analysing my case and caring for me. It's very rare to get doctors who do that. It's a rare thing where somebody might say, Casey Hodgkinson, after years and years, 23 years old, after years and years, she's just got ACC payments, but she's had to campaign so hard and largely on her own. It's really been a hard journey for all of them. So there's something deeply wrong with all this. This is not for our good, is it? This is for something entirely different.
No, it does seem that they seem to be intent on reducing the population. They're getting our own doctors to jab us with the poison that can potentially kill us as well.
And it's not only that, the bird flu is a deeply worrying one because so many people eat chicken. So many people eat chicken every day, and it's a major food source. Eggs every day, it's a major food source in our society. Now, if they start also putting mRNA into the chickens, that food source becomes polluted. And does that go into the human body? And no cogent scientific studies, as far as I know, are being done on that, Claire. Are you aware of any?
No, I'm not. But from what I'm reading in the minutes, Liz, like, for example, those from the 2nd of March, the Northland meeting, they're planning on culling large numbers of the chickens.
That's really worrying.
There are statements like, things can change rapidly. And I get the impression that they're planning on calling a pandemic, and all these people who've got the PPE gear ready to roll out, and all this training that's been going on. And we've got networks of people all around the country now, hundreds and hundreds of people are waiting to be told that the bird flu has arrived. It's going to be far worse than COVID, because before we just had the government, didn't we, on the pulpit of truth. But here we've got people throughout local government, HPAI, Department of Conservation, Fish and Game, you name it, who've been brainwashed. Well, hopefully some of them are waking up.
Do we know anything about the development of supposed poison bioweapon shots, is what I call them, but they call them vaccines? Any of these bioweapon shots have been developed yet for the imagined bird flu pandemic?
I found at this stage, there's that trial that I mentioned that was on the BBC website with 4,000 people involved. That was dated April the 26th, from memory, that article. The US government has put in over $1 billion. This is from an article from January 2025, to Moderna to develop messenger RNA vaccines for bird flu. And there was another article that mentioned that a company in the States had been given FDA fast-track approval for bird flu vaccines. And on top of that, the Trump administration, according to an article at John Fleetwood's Substack, is injecting, or planning on injecting, $33 billion over a period of 5 years for pandemic preparedness. Their documents mention influenza, Liz. They don't mention bird flu, but you get you can get the impression of what is planned based on the amount of money that is they're planning on putting into it.
That was 33 billion, did you say?
That's 33 billion. That's New Zealand dollars over a period of 5 years for developing vaccines, stockpiling vaccines, PPE gear, and so on.
It's amazing how deaf Trump is to the people of the world, saying these bioweapon shots are dangerous. These bioweapon shots are causing premature deaths in excess of what is normally expected, far in excess. And he's just completely tone deaf to that. What other points are in those minutes? Because it's now so important that we, the people, get a step ahead of what they're planning. It's the only way that we can laugh them out of, say, oh, we know that you're up to this. This is wrong. This is nonsense. Stop it.
Okay. There was another statement regarding the water, which was very, very disturbing. Consider need for provision of clean water supplies to vulnerable/untreated water source locations, e.g. rural roof catchment huts and communities. So they're planning on taking water out to people. I did ask the chap in Auckland about this, about where they were planning on taking the water out to, and he claimed that he'd been told by Health New Zealand that they weren't going to do this now, that it was not necessary. But the mere fact, I mean, they're admitting to actually contemplating doing this.
Having thought of doing that.
Yes.
It's what we've got here is somehow the government at the national and now the local level seem to think we must be busybodying our way into the minutiae of the lives of everybody in our community. So it's completely flipped from we will get in and we will serve our communities to we will get in and we will lord over our communities, whether they like it or not. It's
Yes.
government has gone completely off the reservation. It no longer serves us, the people. We are going to
Yes.
have to come up with a new model, but God knows what that is.
Yeah.
It's really dangerous.
Yes, it is really dangerous because they could easily poison that water that they're taking out to people,
Easily.
like, for example, with fluoride or...
Yes, we had the same thought. I mean, I on many of the readings of what they did to the prisoners in World War II, they added fluoride to make them more, far more compliant, far less likely to resist. So it does seem to stop people being able to rise up. The fluoride in the water is very, very damaging in many ways for our mental acuity, our mental awareness.
Yes, it is. Yeah, my father was an anaesthetist and he used to use fluorothane to put people to sleep. That
Really?
was, yeah.
I'd never heard that.
Yeah,
Gosh,
it's,
Claire, but it does look like a lot of people wander around in our society in a state of a semi-comatose state, as if you could do almost anything to them and they just won't question. They just won't question.
yes,
What else is in those minutes? Let's keep going with
Okay,
this.
it's another statement. Upon confirmation from the Ministry for Primary Industries and the Department of Conservation that reported incidences of bird flu are reducing consistently, or the threat of bird flu no longer presents a significant risk, terminate CONPLAN, CONPLAN,
Can you translate
HPAI.
that? What is that saying?
Well, we have to wait for them to decide when the supposed threat is over. I suppose that's when they've culled the food supply and so on, and then they'll tell us it's all over. It's everything can go back to normal.
But we go back to one of the first points you made, which is this could go on indefinitely if these governments deem it so.
Yes,
really
there was
worrying.
that. Yes, yeah. And in regard to water, there was a video at RNZ and it mentioned that ESR during COVID was testing the water, and they're claiming that they can tell if someone has got COVID just based on wastewater testing, and they're using the PCR for that as well. So they could say, oh, we've got bird flu in the wastewater here in Auckland, and potentially use that as an excuse to jab everyone in
This is
a
horrendous.
worst case scenario.
This is just horrendous. I mean, it's horrendous in terms of trying to steal the people's power under the aegis of fake science, which has, in some quarters, really replaced religion for many of these people. They believe so blindly in science that they are beyond questioning the ludicrous nature of what they're proposing to everybody. Could you talk a little about veteran journalist John Rappaport? He's done some very good work. He's worth following, isn't he? Could you tell us a little bit about him? Yes.
Yeah, he wrote a book about the AIDS hoax, and he has made a very, very good audio called The Creation of a False Epidemic, which is posted at solari.com, which I highly recommend everyone listen to. And yes, he during COVID was producing articles which were very, very useful in waking people up putting out the evidence that showed that, for example, the PCR was completely useless. And and he says that one of the reasons that the chickens are being killed in very large numbers is because if you leave a couple of supposedly infected ones next to hundreds of thousands of healthy birds, and everyone remains, not everyone, all the chickens remain healthy, that will expose the bird flu as a hoax. So it's a way of fanning the flames of fear to kill the birds. And
that's actually a way out. Claire, you've just offered a way out. So if our next government, which, will be a World Health Organization compliant, a WEF compliant, a UN Agenda 2030 compliant government, placed into power in a faked up election in New Zealand, I think they all are now. If they get into power over us and declare this, I think that people should demand that one group of chickens, where there's supposedly some sick chickens that have been identified, take those 2 sick ones out, and then let's see what happens in that shed of chickens, and let's monitor it every day. And if the others don't get sick, although they'd probably fabricate more PCR tests to say they are getting sick, of course, it's hard. But what he's saying is quite possibly if you remove the supposed sick chickens, the other ones won't get sick at all because it's not a pandemic. Is there a way to really use proper science to prove that this isn't something that's spreading amongst big numbers of birds in one area? But you see, for that we need honourable scientists, and scientists with the ability not to go along with dogma and ideology. That's what we've lost.
Yes. We need to demand that something other than the PCR be used.
Yes.
To test for bird flu.
Well, let's go beyond that to solutions. One of mine is, if I were Prime Minister tomorrow, I'd say New Zealand is out of the World Health Organization. We want nothing more to do with them. They're absolutely corrupted by the Gates Foundation, by Garvey, by Bill Gates himself. It is a corrupted organization. It doesn't follow real science. I'd say New Zealand must come out of the United Nations, and we must cancel Agenda 2030, and that any New Zealand politician henceforth who goes to a World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, when they put their foot back on New Zealand soil, they will be accused of and tried for treason against their own people. That's what I would do. So we need to get out of the World Health Organization. It's about sickness. It's not about health, and it's about making profit from vaccines. It's not about looking after human beings. But what are some of the solutions you see to this nonsense, this brainwashing of our councils now, ready for this imagined pandemic they're going to do, like the king's new clothes again? The emperor's new clothes, that story.
Yes. Well, what I would suggest, if people have got friends or family members in the councils, to send, you could try sending Dr. Samantha Bailey's videos. She made a very good one called Taking Your Chickens Away. And she's made another one called Secrets of Influenza, which that one shows that you can't pass influenza from one person to another. And she refers to the work of a Dr. Milton Rosenauer, who ran experiments at the end of World War I. And he found that using 62 healthy subjects interacting, and they even transferred blood from the people who were supposedly desperately ill from the flu and injected it in the healthy people. They got the people who were desperately ill to cough over repeatedly a number of times over the healthy subjects. And also they got mucus from the sick people, and they put it into their, noses and throats of the healthy subject, and they could not get them to catch the flu. None of the healthy subjects became sick with the flu after that. And there was another similar experiment done not long after that, and again they couldn't make people sick, healthy people sick with the flu.
And Samantha
transfer.
Bailey refers to that in Secrets of Influenza in that
Yes,
piece
that's
that she's
right.
done.
Yeah.
We'll put that
Very, very good.
underneath here. We'll put that
Thank you.
underneath and people can refer to it. What can we do to make our councils more open with us? Have a conscience like the whistleblower Barbara who came to you, who said, this is horrifying what I'm hearing in these meetings. The propaganda and the fear-mongering. How can we say to our councils, you're only there because you're meant to represent us. You are one of us. Come and tell us what is going on. I don't know how we reach them, Claire. I hope this interview pricks the consciences of at least a good part of them. Please send this interview with Claire speaking up to anybody you know in your local council, or to send it to all of them in your local council around New Zealand and say, I do not want a pandemic again declared. It's baked up, it's faked up, and it's baked up by the WHO, and they are not a reliable, scientific, credible source anymore since COVID. Tell your councillors. What else do you think we can do to make them more honest, Claire?
I have sent my article, which included a lot of references to all of the regional councils, and I didn't hear anything back from them.
From nobody, not one.
No, not one. I approached a lady who was at the Canterbury Regional Council via a Facebook message, and I asked if she believed that bird flu was real or just a hoax, and she referred me to their media team. She wouldn't talk to me directly, and for some reason or other, people are very reluctant to talk about what they think about this, and I find it it's very disturbing, isn't it, Liz, when people can't be transparent about something so important, because this is going to have a profound effect on our society and our food supply.
We have a country that is rapidly collapsing because people go along with other people hiding information. And our societal fabric is collapsing. And if we keep serious secrets from each other, serious ones involving life and death, and pandemics and bullying and all of the other things that we went through in the last 6 years, we won't have a future to leave our children. So truth-telling has become, I think, one of the most valuable things we can offer each other in this society. And it takes enormous courage to stand up and tell the truth, because there are many forces. When I first spoke out against Jacinda Ardern, there was a massive wave of abuse in legacy media. And there can be saboteurs, there can be all sorts of things trying to put the light of truth out. So that's really all we have, to stand up, each of us, and find our courage to speak the truth, no matter the cost, because the truth is the light in the darkness. But it means if there are whistleblowers out there, we need you. We really need you to help all of New Zealand. Come and tell us what you know. If the councillors who feel uncomfortable with this would speak out and say, this is not right what I'm seeing in the local council, like Barbara did, then we would have more opportunity to push back. You could really help. You could really help if you're on your local council and you're not comfortable with this planning of another pandemic. Let's ask for people from around the world if you know that in other countries this is lockstep. If you're in Ireland or Australia or the UK or America and you're watching this, or Canada, please tell me, liz.gunn@freenz.org, if you know the same planning is going on there, because then that points to it being coordinated by, the wizard behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz. Very nasty. Meantime, Claire, I think if you can just keep a watching brief and keep in touch with me on what's coming in, we can at least keep updating this conversation. And I would ask everybody who watches this, share it everywhere you can. So when they do declare it, you can laugh at them, as we did with monkeypox. I thought that was the best pandemic of all. Monkeypox, we just laughed them out of existence. So, someone had a meme of someone on a big rock overlooking vast plains going, I'm just looking for where Hunter virus went. It's Everybody's going, oh, not another. But you can see with this, there's something more planned, more coordinated, a lot more fear language, like all our birds that we love could be wiped out. It could come into the human population. It would be so dangerous. It was one of the biggest viral threats facing New Zealand is avian flu, says this Professor Geo Geegan. And we need to look her up at Otago University. That kind of fear-mongering needs to stop. It needs to stop. We have always had illnesses that people and animals get, and then we've had survival. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And there were many, many, many thousands of years we didn't have vaccines and big pharmaceutical companies making enormous profits. So is that what it's really about? You follow the money when you're a journalist. You follow the money, and that's where you find the crime.
Yes,
So
yes.
your last words, Claire, to people who might be feeling anxious, I'd say don't be anxious, be active. What's your advice?
Well, I would suggest if they were concerned, have a look at the history of pandemics over the last few decades, and you'll find out that it's one hoax after another. And I would say that if you can share information from Dr. Sam Bailey's page regarding the H5N1 hoax, that would be useful, and also support Liz Gunn's work. I think she's doing a fabulous job.
Thank
and she has been for some time.
I really appreciate that very, very much. And I appreciate you doing this work for all of New Zealand to be prepared in a different way from the way they're preparing, which is they're preparing to scare us. And your work is preparing us to be very brave and not to blink when they come at us with another manufactured pandemic. Thank you very much, Claire, and let's keep in touch.
Okay, thank you very much, Liz. Thank you for all you're doing.